this lesson, we'll discuss margins application scenarios. When setting margins, we will mainly be dealing with 3 scenarios. Each scenario requires us to discuss the vertical and horizontal margins separately. The 3 scenarios are setting a margin between a browser border and a HTML tag, setting a margin between parent tag and child tag, and setting margin between or among sibling tags. We'll start with our first scenario, setting margins between browser border and HTML tags. First, we'll try block tags. We create a div tag and set a background and a size to it. Between the left and top borders of the div tag and the browser window, you'll find a gap. This gap is the default margin added by the system. We don't need this default margin, therefore when initializing CSS, we set the tag's margin to 0. And after we've cleared the default styles, we can see that the gap is gone. Then we add the margin top to the div tag. Using the margin left property, we can create a gap between the div and the browser's left border. But what if we want to create a 100 wide gap between the div tag and the right border of the browser window? Do you think the margin's right property can get us what we want? Well, the result has shown that the margin right property doesn't work. Div did not move at all. We'll learn how to set margin between div and the browser's right border later. The reason I mentioned this example is to make sure that you have a correct understanding of how the margin property works. Margin is a spring. It's not a magnet. If the neighboring element's default location is out of reach, the margin won't work. By default, the div will be placed on the top left corner of the browser window. Therefore, the left border is within the margin's left reach. Because the browser border is fixed, the div itself was pushed away.